some feelings stay silent. Until now. It was supposed to be just another ordinary Friday. Just another trip to the movies, like we did almost every week. But that day, something in the air felt different. And it wasn't just the irresistible smell of buttery popcorn filling the cinema lobby. Daniel was waiting for me near the ticket counter, leaning casually against one of the columns, with that laid-back posture of his that always made me laugh. Messy hair, black t-shirt, worn-out jeans, and that smile, the one that always looked like he knew something nobody else did. I walked toward him slowly, and for a second I swear I felt my heart skip a beat. "You're only 10 minutes late. A new record," he teased, handing me my ticket. "I thought about making you wait longer just so you'd appreciate my presence." He laughed. And that laugh, that specific laugh, made something inside me tremble. We had shared so many movie sessions before, but in that moment it felt like I was seeing him in a completely different light. We walked into the theater. It was one of the newer ones, with reclining seats, lots of space. Perfect for forgetting the world outside. We settled in side by side, a giant bucket of popcorn between us. The lights dimmed, the trailers began, but I barely paid attention. My head was full of him. Daniel had always been my best friend. The kind of person who understands you with just a glance, who laughs at your terrible jokes, who sticks by you on the good days and the awful ones too. But lately something inside me had started to shift. Or maybe it had always been there, and I was only now beginning to see it. The screen lit up in front of us, but all my focus was on him. Every time our hands met in the popcorn bucket, a soft jolt ran through me. I felt ridiculous for noticing such tiny things, but it was impossible to ignore. He turned to me during the slower scene and whispered, his face way too close to mine. "This movie's kinda slow, huh?" I nodded, trying to pretend my stomach hadn't just twisted into a knot. His breath brushed my skin, and then for a moment that seemed to stretch on forever, our eyes locked. I should have looked away, should have laughed it off and gone back to watching the film, but I didn't do any of that. I kept staring, and so did he. There, in the dim light of the theater, with the soft soundtrack filling the silence, something between us shifted. We didn't need words. It was like everything we'd never said was floating in the air between us. Slowly I leaned in. So did he. The distance between us shrank inch by inch until our noses were almost touching. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe, but just before our lips could meet, someone coughed loudly from the row behind us. We pulled away instantly like we'd been shocked. Daniel laughed awkwardly. "Almost, yeah," I said, staring straight ahead, my face burning. But inside I knew I was no longer the same. We walked out of the theater with slow steps, like the world outside didn't make much sense anymore. The movie was over, but inside me, the real story was still unfolding. The night air was colder than I remembered, and the contrast with the warmth still burning in my chest only made everything more confusing. Daniel walked beside me, hands in the pockets of his jacket, eyes avoiding mine with that same carefree smile. But now it carried something more, something I was still trying to understand. "Want to walk for a bit?" he asked, glancing at me quickly before looking back down at the ground. "Yeah, I do." We wandered through a few almost empty streets, the sound of our footsteps echoing in the silence of the city. The streetlights cast long yellowish shadows, and I wondered if he was just as nervous as I was. "About what happened back there," he started, pausing mid-step. "Do you think it was weird?" "No," I replied instantly, maybe too firmly. "I think it was honest." He looked at me like he had been waiting for exactly that word. "I felt that, Liam. I wanted to." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. That pause said more than any explanation ever could. So I did what my body had been begging me to do since the movie. I got closer again. This time, without hesitation. Daniel didn't pull away either. Our lips met with a softness that was almost shy. It was a light kiss, almost like a question, but it was also an answer, a confirmation of everything that had been growing between us for so long, even if hidden between laughs and casual conversations. When we pulled away, he smiled. So it wasn't just in my head, not in mine either. From that moment on, everything felt new. The way his arm brushed against mine, the way he looked at me, now more intense, more present. We kept walking, quiet for a while, but it was that comfortable kind of silence, full of meaning, where words were no longer that necessary. The night went on until we ended up back at my place. He stood in front of the gate, not really in a hurry to leave. "Want to come in?" I asked. He hesitated for a second, then nodded. "Yeah, I do." The vibe inside the house felt different. There was the familiar scent of my room, mixed with the faint perfume he wore, and the muffled sound of a playlist I left playing in the background created a strangely intimate atmosphere. We sat on the edge of the bed, closer than ever, our eyes still saying more than our mouths. And there, once again, we kissed, this time with more intensity, with more certainty. Our hands found natural paths, the touches deepened, and the world outside seemed to disappear. Every movement, every breath was a silent outpouring of everything we had kept inside for too long. But then came the moment that changed everything. In the heat of it all, when our kisses became more urgent and our clothes started being tossed aside, he stopped, sat at the edge of the bed, breathless, and ran a hand over his face. "Sorry. I think it's moving too fast." My heart jumped to my throat. I felt a wave of frustration, but I also understood. "It's okay. I just thought it was what you wanted too." "It is, but I'm confused, Liam. We've always been friends, and now it feels like I'm betraying that, you know?" I stayed quiet for a moment. Then I slowly moved closer and sat beside him. "I'm confused too, but what happened between us today wasn't a mistake, it was real. And if we're going to mess everything up, then let's mess it up together." He looked into my eyes. There was something there. Fear, yes, but also desire, tenderness, and maybe even a little relief. That night didn't end with promises or with certainty, but it ended with the two of us lying side by side, in silence, our fingers intertwined in the dark, as if that alone was enough. And somehow, it was. The days that followed were a tangle of emotions, between text exchange more often and meetups disguised as casual hangouts. Something inside me already knew. We weren't in the same place we used to be. And no matter how much we tried to keep things light, the truth was that everything now carried weight. The weight of what we felt, what we hadn't said, and what we still didn't know how to deal with. Daniel grew more distant, even when he was right there. It was like a part of him was always stuck somewhere else, trapped in a doubt I couldn't reach. On Friday, I invited him over to watch something at my place. Some silly movie, just so we could laugh, eat junk food, and maybe pick up where we left off last time. But he showed up acting weird, quiet. He barely looked at me when he walked in. "You okay?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Yeah, just tired," he said, tossing his backpack to the floor and sinking into the couch. It wasn't just tiredness, I felt it. The way he avoided my touch, kept glancing at his phone. Something was off, but I held it in, took a deep breath and let it slide, until I couldn't anymore. "If something's wrong, you can tell me, you know," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He sighed, rubbing his face with both hands. "I don't know what I'm doing, Liam. This thing between us. It makes me happy, but it also scares the hell out of me. It scares me too, but running away won't fix it. I'm not running away. I'm just trying to figure things out." "Figure out what?" I raised my voice without meaning to. "That you feel something for me and you're scared of what it means?" "Yes, exactly that. I wasn't ready for this. I don't know how to act. I don't know what to expect. We stared at each other. The air between us had turned cold. You don't have to have all the answers now, Daniel. You just need to be honest. With me. With yourself. He dropped his gaze, and the silence that followed wasn't just silence. It was heavy, uncomfortable. Maybe we should take a break from this, he said barely above a whisper. It hit me like a punch to the gut. I turned my face away, trying to process it. It hurt, and it hurt even more because he couldn't even look at me while saying it. So that's it? I asked, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. You're throwing all this away because you're afraid? I'm not throwing it away, I need time to think. I shook my head. Funny how you always need time to think when it's easier to just leave me for later. That one landed hard. He stood up, breathing deeply like he was trying not to lose control. I'm gonna leave before we say something we'll regret. Fine. Go. And he did. The door clicked shut behind him, and suddenly my entire room felt darker. His scent still lingered in the air, making everything feel even more painful. I lay down on the bed, staring at the ceiling. My heart was pounding like it was trying to warn me that something important had slipped away in the cracks of that argument. It was the first time I cried because of him. Not because of a kiss or a touch, but because I was afraid of losing something we didn't even know how to name yet. I stayed there, in the dark, playing the playlist he liked on low volume, wondering if he was asking himself the same questions, wondering if he missed me too. The days passed slowly. Each one felt like an eternity inside my room. My phone, which used to be our bridge, was now just a cold screen with no notifications from him. I wanted to text him. I wanted to call. But pride, or maybe the fear of bothering him, held me back. But the heart doesn't understand distance or pauses. On Wednesday night, almost a week after the fight, I heard knocks at my door. My chest started pounding like it already knew, like it was him, like it had always been him. I opened the door slowly, and there was Daniel. Messy hair, red eyes, wearing a gray hoodie I'd seen 100 times before. That same scent I knew so well and missed so much. Hey, he said in a low voice, almost fragile. Hey. We stood there looking at each other for a few seconds. Silence, but a different silence from last time. A silence full of the desire to make things right. Can I come in? He asked. I stepped aside, giving him space. He walked in slowly, like he wasn't sure if he still could. He sat on the couch. I stayed there standing, trying to process his presence. I've thought a lot these past few days, he began, and I hated myself for walking out like that. I thought a lot too, I replied, and I hated you for leaving, but even more for missing you anyway. He gave a dry, humorless laugh, staring at the floor. I'm such an idiot, aren't I? Yeah, an idiot I care a hell of a lot about. He looked up at me, and this time, there was something in his eyes. Something different. Something clearer. You're the first person who's ever made me feel all this. This good kind of confusion, this good kind of fear, this urge to be close even when I'm running away. I moved closer, slowly, sat next to him. Our knees touched, and for the first time in days he didn't pull away. You don't have to have all the answers, Daniel. You just have to stay here. He swallowed hard. He was on the verge of crying. So was I. If I kiss you now, will you forgive me? If you don't kiss me now, I'll never forgive you. I joked, though my voice was shaking. He smiled, that smile of his, the one that completely undoes me, and then he kissed me, slowly, gently, tenderly, as if every second of that kiss was an apology, a plea to come back, as if our lips were finally saying everything our words couldn't during that night of the fight. His hand touched my face, firm and soft at the same time. Afterward, I rested my forehead against his, breathless, feeling the warmth of his breath so close to mine. I was scared of losing you, he whispered. You almost did, I replied, brushing my thumb across his cheek. But you came back, and now I want to stay. The rest of the night was just ours. We didn't need much. A couch, a blanket, 2 bodies pressed close, some random movie playing on the TV just to fill the background. Our fingers intertwined, the long looks, the smiles between kisses. And when we lay down, he rested his head on my chest like it was the safest place in the world. And I kept my hand in his hair, caressing him in silence, feeling his heartbeat against mine. Promise you won't leave again? I asked, already half asleep. I promise. But if I ever get lost again, come find me, please. I promise I will. I'll always find you. And that's how we fell asleep, together, as if the world outside could wait. Because there, in that night, what mattered most was knowing that even through fears, silences, and fights, we still chose each other. If this story touched you, imagine the next one. Subscribe now to hear more confessions, real, raw, and unforgettable.